real educators who are living this work. When I think about the greatness that is happening every day in schools all over the world, I feel compelled to do a small part in helping others understand the many facets of the work we do. We hope our listeners will be able to gain an inside look as we pull back the curtain.
Welcome back. Today we're thrilled to speak with Hannah Zimmermann, our music teacher and also the specials team leader. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We have been waiting all semester to get you in the hot seat. So it'll be a fun episode for sure. So Hannah, on the podcast, we like to take some time to get to know our interviewees. So share a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you get into music? How did you get into music education? All the things.
Yeah. Well, I have 4 older brothers, so I'm the youngest of 5. So basically, as a child, I did anything I could to be the center of attention.
Okay.
So, that was a very easy transition into acting and singing and all of the things, but I wasn't good at it. So I definitely was not the child who, you heard sing and you thought, wow, she's going to get the solo. You were kind of like, she could be in the chorus, but we don't really want her to keep singing.
Okay.
So I wasn't talented growing up when it came to music, which is kind of a fun fact. But I just loved it. So I kept pursuing it. I did musical theater. I took community college classes in high school and did music theory, voice lessons, jazz lessons, all of the fun things. And when I was trying to decide what to do for my undergrad, my mind went everywhere else. Maybe I get a counseling degree, maybe I do biblical studies, missions, something like that. And my professor in college, he was my voice teacher, Dr. Germany. He's like the teacher that you write the paper about. That you say, this teacher changed my life.
Yeah.
He asked me why I wasn't going into music for undergrad. And I just kind of looked at him with this crazy look, you and I both know I don't have what it takes. And he told me, he said, Hannah, there are 2 kinds of musicians in the world. Those who are naturally gifted and those who have to work harder to be better than them. And you fall into the second category, but you can 100% choose to do that. And it just opened my mind to this possibility, I actually could do music.
Yeah.
And so I went to my undergrad originally for vocal performance, and I hated it. It took all of the joy out of singing for me. And I just was like, this isn't fun anymore. I just feel like I'm having to work really hard, and I just didn't enjoy it. And so long story short, I had some health problems, and I kind of was forced to switch career paths. And so I decided to just try music education and see if it was a good fit for me. And the first class I went to, I just melted into the chair and was like, this is it. This is the home for me. So that's how I got into music ed.
I love that. Well, there's my brain is just going crazy because I also was like, I'm going to go pre-law, and all these people were telling me no, you're meant to be in education. And so I took, the class was Ed 25, and I still remember walking out of the first class. Dr. Jane White was a professor, and calling my mom and being like, okay, I accept it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I never looked back. So that's awesome. And I also love that you share that. And I know you share that with your kids because, let's say we always hear about Michael Jordan. He didn't make the team. We always hear about athletes or Steve Jobs, and he got fired from this, or he didn't graduate from here. And you hear about that, but I don't think we ever really hear about musicians. I think there's just this thought that if you are a musician, it's because you were gifted with that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a hard industry to break into. And so I think it is less common for you to hear about musicians who just kept pushing.
Yeah. That is awesome. That gives me the chills. So cool. Okay. So considering that you teach students in kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade, when planning for instruction, how do you design your music lessons?
Yeah, well, the first thing I do is I really look at the lesson and say, how do I infuse joy in this? How do students walk out of the room and leave music with a smile on their face? Because I truly believe my purpose as a music teacher, it would be great if students left with the ability to sing, compose, improvise, play all of the things. But at the end of the day, I get to see them once a week for 45 minutes. And they need to come to me having a good time and having fun and making joyful music. So when I design my lessons, I have different concepts I want to teach each grade level, and they all build upon one another, which is the fun part about being a specials teacher. You get to see their growth from kinder through 5th grade, and it's really cool. But when I'm planning those lessons, I think, what instruments are we playing? What games are we playing? How are we using their critical thinking skills? Encouraging them to improvise and create. Because really, music is like this safe space for kids to be able to do something they wouldn't do. You know, like at the front of my door when I greet my students, I'll often sing them a question like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And they'll just sing it back. No kid would ever do that in their classroom.
Right.
Like, vanilla.
Yeah.
And so just things like that are like little moments where they're like, well, everyone's doing this, so I don't care that I'm doing it. And it's tapping into their creativity. But really, when I plan a lesson, it's just all about, okay, these are the concepts we're teaching. How do we infuse it with joy? And I have like a strategic sequential plan. So that way in first grade, they know this. In second grade, they know that. All of those different things.
I love it. And, you know, when you were talking about that, music is a vulnerable content, like art or like writing. I used to tell my students when they would start having that self-talk of like, I'm not a writer, I'm not a good writer. And it's like, I would tell them there really is no right or wrong answer in writing. It's the best subject because there's really no right or wrong answer. Yeah. And that's kind of how art and music is, right? Like, it's not like math where it's like, okay, the answer is B. It's like, okay, well, why don't you make the answer, you know? Absolutely. And that's so cool. But a lot of kids, even starting in elementary school, they struggle with that idea of like putting themselves out there and what if it's not right?
Yes. So to create that space in music where there isn't that right or wrong, and like some of my students, when I sing a simple call and response, they'll echo that call and response because they're nervous to make up their own like ice cream flavor on the spot. And I tell them that's okay, whatever you feel comfortable and safe with. And so it really gives them the power to choose what they do.
I love it. I remember at the beginning of the year, Mrs. Wells and I were in your classroom doing a walkthrough, and we both were sitting on the floor with our computers in our lap. And I looked at her and I was like, I can't even type because I'm so enthralled and engaged with Mrs. Zimmermann. And I like found myself smiling. Like I had a huge smile on my face just watching you and watching the joy in the kids. And I just was like, wow, you know, I say it a lot on the podcast, but when you're watching someone do the work that they were called to do, it's just this magical thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we see when we watch you for sure. Okay. So every time we sing our school song, the staff and students beam with pride. And you are actually the writer of the Minett school song. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah. This was not a magical process.
Okay.
By any means. It took me a long time to write the Minett school song. What I started with was whenever a school has like maybe an unusual spelling, I always think that the school name should be spelled out in the song just because it really drills this like knowledge for the kids of how to spell their school name.
I love that.
And so Minett with like the double letters and things like that, I knew I wanted that in there. And then I took things like our mission statement, our core values, our beliefs, and I knew I wanted those important words in there too. But after that, it was truly as simple. For 2 months, I would just sit in my car and I would sing Minett and be like, no, I don't like that. Okay, let's try something different. And I just played with like all of these different melodies until one day the inspiration just struck. Yeah. But it truly did. It took me 2 months of just singing in my car saying, no, that's not it. Because you also have to think of it as an elementary school song. Like kindergartners have to be able to sing it. Yeah. And so you're really creating it for a large range of abilities. But it was not a magical process. It was just a lot of creativity in the car, turning off the radio and playing around.
Yeah. Well, and talk about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people, I hear that I can be intimidating. And once you get to know me, like absolutely not at all. But I always think, poor Hannah, her first task, it's like, welcome, you now work at Minett as the music teacher. Now create the school song that will be the school song from here to eternity.
Hope everyone likes it.
No pressure. So, what a great way to just jump right in. Okay. So beyond being the best music teacher Minett could ever have, you do lots of extra things around here too. So tell us about all the other things that you do.
Yeah, well, on top of just teaching normal specials, I help run Pulse every week, which is so fun because the kids get to meet and it's just like a joy to see them meet with their house family and like create that bond and that unity. But so I help run Pulse. I did have choir in the fall, and now I'm doing Susical this spring. Basically just an opportunity for those older kids to really start training their ears and learning like the value. Because man, cool fact, when people start to sing together, their heartbeats actually sync up because they're matching the tempo. And so there's like a true unification in music that does like not happen outside of it. Because you can't draw together or play sports together and sync up your heartbeat. Like that just doesn't happen scientifically. And so for them to have that opportunity to come together and hear different parts, or in Susical, like we're doing some intense choreography, things like that. It's just really giving them a chance to see like, is this my lane? Is this what I love to do and want to keep doing in the future? So I love doing those extracurriculars. And then on top of that, I do grade level programs, which I love. And I will say that I am not a cookie cutter music teacher. Like I do not do the box set of a musical and spend 6 weeks learning different songs and dances, because I just don't like doing that as a teacher. And that's also when you see behavior ramp up, because the kids who already struggle to enjoy music, now they know they're coming for the next 6 weeks and they're learning songs, sitting in their spot, doing dances. And it's just, I don't think it's a lot of fun. And so what I'll do is I'll actually take like, in 2nd grade, we did a snowman program, and they were learning half note and they were learning do. And so I took songs that reinforced those concepts, but then we could also add games to them. We could add instruments to them. And then they were excited because they came through the door and they were like, are we singing snowman races in 3 parts today? Just things like that. And right now I'm working on the 1st grade program, and we're doing the exact same thing. It's going to be a spring theme, but we're taking songs that they're learning in music and then saying, how can we truly individualize these and make these our own? So that way when they come, they're still learning the concepts that I need them to learn as their music teacher, but like there's so much joy and excitement infused because they're going to get to share it with their parents. So.
Well, and I know that like with the 2nd grade program, you know your kids so well that you know the kids who need certain parts, and you get to play up to that so that those specific students can see maybe music isn't my favorite, maybe PE is my favorite specials, and maybe I'm more athletically gifted, but in this musical, I got something to do, a part that had to do with my athletic ability. And so they start to see that you can be both. So cool. When I think about Susical and you think about all the stage direction and all of the things, social studies standards, literacy standards that are all into that. I mean, obviously you have the notes and you have the math standards. So such a great experience for kids to see how the content they're learning in the classroom also connects to what they're learning in the music.
Yes. Oh, I love that. When we started talking about Susical, it was so fun. We talked about the history of musical theater, which goes back to ancient Greece. And then we started talking about the stock market crash and how that like impacted the Great Depression, impacted theater. And it's just so cool. They all intertwine. And when kids make those real world connections, it's like these fireworks going off in their brain of like, wait, music is not just music.
It's all over. Well, that's awesome. And you mentioned Pulse. And for our listeners, Pulse is our Friday morning assembly where we gather the whole school, K-5, all of the staff, just to celebrate the week, to celebrate learning. And, you know, we went back and forth with the name of our assembly, and we landed on Pulse because of such our connection to the heart. Start with the heart, rise with the mind. And, you know, when you're all together, us being the pulse of the school, but now it even has a deeper meaning with the whole idea. We need to teach kids that when you sing in unison, your heartbeats start to go together. That is so cool. Okay. So for some of our families who may not know, share which musical instruments you play.
Yeah, well, I definitely specialized in voice since I went to college for vocal performance. So I had to give a senior recital that was like 40 minutes long, sing French, German, Italian, all of the things. Yeah, it's quite an intense process. And then I do play piano and ukulele, but my specialty is definitely vocal.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is more of a fun question. What genres of music do you like, and are there any that you dislike?
Yes. So hands down, my favorites are jazz and Disney. Jazz connects to the emotions, and it's like so simple and raw. And yet the beauty of jazz is while it sounds simple and raw, if you look at the music theory behind it, it's so complex. And the whole point of jazz is they say the first time you do it, it's a mistake. The second time you do it, it's on purpose. And it gives like such freedom for improvisation, and it's just beautiful. And then Disney, you can belt that anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And anyone will join in. And
Yeah.
so you gotta love Disney. As far as least favorite genres go, I am not a fan. I just feel like as an elementary music teacher, you're constantly stimulated by noise all day.
Mm-hmm.
So anything like heavy metal that just places emphasis on like loud noise in your face. I see the musical merit and value to it, but I do not listen to it.
I'm with you there. Yeah. Same. Okay, well, we are coming to our end of our time together, but on the Minett podcast, we like to end each episode with a little fun. So today we are going to play Would You Rather.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, are you ready? I know how you like games.
I do like games.
Okay.
Very competitive.
So would you rather be forced to sing along or dance to every single song you hear?
Sing along.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Says the vocalist.
And not a dancer.
Yeah, says the vocalist. Okay, would you rather be 11 feet tall or 9 inches tall?
I just see you getting squished as a 9-inch human, though. So I'm going to say 11 feet and just be in pain the rest of my life.
My brain went to getting on an airplane, being 11 feet tall.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Okay, would you rather communicate only in emoji or never be able to text at all ever again?
Oh, easy. No texting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather be royalty 1,000 years ago or an average person today?
Average person today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm where I am for a reason.
I love it. Okay. Would you rather cuddle a koala or pal around with a panda?
It's so cute. I think the panda.
I think I could see you doing both.
Yeah. So cute.
Awesome. Well, you made it.
Yay.
You brought, I think, I probably learned the most on this episode than I've learned on all of the other episodes. And you're going to have to make sure when this goes live that you get it somehow to that music professor.
Yeah, I will.
They would love to hear that. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Mrs. Zimmermann.
Oh, thank you guys. This was such a blast.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a like on YouTube and be sure to hit subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,